Welcome to the Kidlit Craft Podcast. I'm Anne-Marie Stroman, and I'm here without Erin Nuttall today. We're taking a little departure from our usual fare between seasons. Season 3 will be coming out soon, but in the meantime, we wanted to bring you some writing things of interest. And today, we've got Michael Leali here to talk about how to prepare for an MFA program. And we may get into a little bit of why you might even want to do one. You may know Michael from the workshops he did for us at Kidlit Craft last fall, or his 3 middle grade novels, The Civil War of Amos Abernathy, Mateo, and The Truth About Triangles. He's an educator and a bookseller and an author coach. And this spring, he is going to be teaching a certificate course with the University of San Francisco's new Writing for Young Readers program called MFA in Writing for Young Readers Bootcamp. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me, Anne-Marie. I really appreciate being here and getting the chance to talk all things MFA.
Yeah. So let's start with your own MFA experience. How did you decide to apply for MFA programs, and what did you do to prepare?
That's such a good question. I was a high school English teacher when I decided to apply for MFA programs, and I knew for a long time that I wanted to be a writer, and I had been going it alone for the most part. I had like a writing buddy, and he and I would exchange pages, and he was writing something totally different, and I was really interested in writing for kids, and I just was like feeling kind of stuck. Like I didn't know where to go or what to do next. And I had always thought that pursuing an MFA would be a logical, great next step. And when it came time to investigate where to go when writing for young people, I really wanted a really focused program. So I searched up a bunch of places and I found a few low residency models that seemed like they would fit with where I was at with my life, that would allow me to maintain a full-time job and pursue the degree full-time. And, after teaching, I had been teaching for 3 years at that point. And my whole life was in the high school. I was there from about 6 a.m. till 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m., running the broadcast club, doing drama club, assistant directing shows, starting a film festival. It was nonstop. And I realized that if I didn't hit pause and take a beat for myself to figure out what I wanted, and if I really could pursue writing as a career, that if I didn't do it then, I might not do it ever. And so I applied to a few different programs. When I got my acceptance letter, I decided to leave teaching and pursue this. I still worked full time throughout my entire MFA experience, but I just didn't teach in the classroom in a traditional sense.
So since you mentioned low residency, let's talk a little bit about what low residency is.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us? I mean, I know because I did one too.
Yes, I know. I was totally unfamiliar with the low residency model when I was searching for MFA programs. And I was totally blown away that they even existed when I figured out what they were. So a low res model is one where you go to campus for a short period of time twice a year. And the program I did was for 9 or 10 days. And when you're not on campus, the rest of the work that you do is by email correspondence. And you put together a packet of material, critical and creative writing, plus all of the annotations you're doing as you're diving deep into reading picture books, middle grade and young adult books, craft books, any nonfiction texts that might help you expand or explore your creative writing. And you work one-on-one with an advisor who helps guide you through drafting, revisions, really engaging in critical conversations around craft and what the industry is doing. And that low residency model allows you to do work when it best fits your schedule. You don't have to attend a traditional class at a specific time. Aside from those residencies that are on campus, it's sort of free form, like a really specific independent study.
Mhm. And I wanted to mention that the low residency programs you'll hear about pretty commonly are Vermont College of Fine Arts, which is now a Cal Arts affiliate, and their low residency program is based in Vermont and Cal Arts in the LA area. So the residencies are in California. The University of San Francisco's Writing for Young Readers program is a low residency program that's launching this summer in San Francisco, as you might expect. And then Hamline University has a low residency program in writing for children and young adults, and its residencies are in St. Paul, Minnesota. There are some specific writing for children's programs at residential universities. So these are places where you would have to go, move there if you don't live there already, go to classes. Simmons University in Boston has a program that takes advantage of the Boston publishing community, as well as the Eric Carle Museum for Picture Book Art in Western Massachusetts, which is, if you have not been there, an
No.
amazing gem of a museum. It's
Gosh.
so beautiful.
Okay.
You can just
I've
check
got
it
to
out
find a way
online
there.
too. They have a lot of their exhibits. They have an online digital component too. The New School in New York City has an MFA in writing for children and young adults. And then you can look up other ones. University of Reno, Nevada has a low residency MFA in writing, and they have a writing for children track. And there are a few programs like that. Emerson College in Boston is kind of the residential version of that, where they have an MFA in popular fiction writing and publishing that has a YA track. So from there you can search, but that's kind of the lay of the land in MFAs in writing for children. But let's get back to the stories, because those are the best parts. So you applied for your MFA, you got in, you decided to put your teaching career on pause, or at least to the extent that you were doing all the things.
Exactly.
When you started your program, were there areas that you felt nervous about going in, areas you felt confident going in?
Yeah, I tend to be more of an anxious person than not. And so even though I was an English major in undergrad, I did teach English classes, I taught creative writing, I had a certificate in creative writing from the University of Iowa. I was still just like uncertain about actually being at the level that was expected for graduate studies. And I think, it had been a minute since I had written critical essays, and the idea of writing a critical thesis was pretty daunting, the idea of giving a lecture. And so for me, even writing that essay for the application was really great to just like get those gears moving again. But I was a little nervous about really re-engaging in a critical way, brushing off those analytical writing skills, thinking deeply about research and secondary sources. And, I was also like, it had been a minute since I was in a workshop setting, and to re-engage with writers, and really for the first time, who were all focused on writing for young people and telling stories that really mattered to kids as young as 0 all the way up to 17, 18. It was thrilling, but also intimidating to be like, "Oh, wow, we all care so much about this. We're all gonna be bringing our A game." And I had a little bit of like this feeling of imposter syndrome. I was like, I know I'm in. I know I've made it into the program, but
Yeah.
will I be bringing enough?
I kind of came with the opposite perspective, that I spent most of my adult life in academic
Mm.
settings. And so I have a master's in English, I have a PhD in English. I've, written an over 200-page research document for my thesis, and so, or my dissertation. And so I came in and I'm like, this critical stuff, like I've got it down. Um, but it was different from what I thought. Like, when you
Hmm.
have the so what of your paper, it's never like, the cultural anxiety in Renaissance England. It's like, how can
Right.
this apply to my writing? Like, what is the effect of this technique? How can it apply to my writing? How can it make other people's writing stronger? So I had to shift gears a little bit, but I was also I had never really been in a full workshop setting. And I had never, especially with, I had started with picture books. And so when I brought
Mm,
in middle grade, I was like, oh no, I have no idea what am doing. And in my first workshop, I remember just being so intimidated by the second semester students who were
yeah.
so good. And I was like, why am I here? And then second semester, I was like, oh, that's who I am now. Like, such growth
Isn't it
in one
amazing how you
semester.
grow? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tremendous. And I think it is about building that confidence and realizing that you are where you're supposed to be, and
Mhm.
that if you put in the time, the effort, the care, you're going to evolve as a human being and as a writer, and
Mhm.
all those good things will come to you.
Yeah. And I loved being in an environment where there are people from a lot of different backgrounds too. We
Mm,
both had English degrees. Other people were coming from other degree areas. Did you What did you find
Yeah.
in your colleagues, and your experience with them?
Yeah, not all of my classmates had degrees in English or creative writing. Some of them had pursued other fields or other industries entirely. A couple people were published, but the
Mhm.
majority of us were not, and the majority of us were not agented when we started in the program. And so there was quite a range of skill sets and knowledge and experience. And I found that through the community, we were able to share in this knowledge and grow so much together. And I really, like, I think the beauty of an MFA program like this is that it welcomes a diversity of experience and skill sets, because you don't have to be an English major to write books. You can bring your own experience. You can bring the stories that you have from whatever your background is to the page, because ultimately, kids need a variety of stories. There's so much out there that we need better representation of. And if we all follow the exact same path to writing those books and being educated in our creative writing, it's all going to feel the same and formulaic, and we don't want that. We want unique voices.
Mhm. And I want to add too that you don't have to get an MFA in order to write and
Mhm.
be published in the children's world. I have many, many friends who have not done an MFA who are well-published authors. And even faculty in MFA programs
Yes.
sometimes don't have advanced degrees, but they have the expertise of being well-published, awards, etc., and often then train in teaching to be able to do that part of the job really effectively. Um, I I went because I had I remember being at an SCBWI conference and going to a picture book of session and realizing I knew everything that the person said. And I was like,
Mm,
I've got to get more help. Like I've gone as far as I can go on my own. I don't know how to move farther forward. And so I had a
yeah.
friend who had done an MFA and decided to go that route. And I remember talking to Martha Brokenborough at the Firsties lunch, and she said, you've been on a tricycle, like you are getting somewhere, like you are making progress, and you stepped into this room and you got on a Harley, and,
I love
and
that.
it. And it like just the volume of knowledge and learning that I did and how I was pushed and challenged, like really did
Ye-
take me. I think I could have done it on my own. I would have figured out a way. It would
Mhm,
have been a lot slower for me. I'm often a person who I don't see the path to where I want to go. So it was really
mhm.
helpful to have a lot of people who had walked before me just in the classes above me and also in the faculty to help guide me in that growth. So that was my little
Yeah, no, I love
story
that.
of
And that
getting there.
totally resonates with me. Like, I loved what you said about you had gone as far as you could go on your own. And that was like exactly where I was at too. That resonates so
Hmm.
much.
Yeah. And I also, as you can tell by the number of years I have been in school in my life, I love school. So for
Yes.
me, it's
School's
like a
great.
natural next step. But let's pretend our listeners do want to get an MFA. Most of the MFA programs have really similar applications. There are different
Hmm.
components. You have a letter of application, a statement of purpose or an artist statement, a writing sample, a critical writing sample, and letters of recommendation. So I want to just talk briefly about each of those
Hmm.
elements. It's been a while since I did mine. I applied in 2018, I think. So, but I have read other people's as they are going
Hmm.
into MFA programs. So, letter of application, like what are things that people should think about when they're writing their letter of application? And we can lump in statement of purpose and artist statement in there too. When you're talking about
Yeah,
yourself and your own writing, like that's a little nerve wracking.
it
What
totally
kind of things should we
is.
think about?
Yeah, I think when it comes to that letter of application, statement of purpose, artist statement, for me, it's about authenticity and being honest on the page about why now, why you, why this program feels like a good fit for you. Um, an MFA is a huge commitment of time, effort, finances. And I think that through this initial letter of introduction, you're letting the program know why now is the best time for you to do this. Because at the end of the day, we want success for everyone. And it's about creating an opportunity for students to be successful. You don't want to welcome a student in who isn't going to find success yet. And I think that
Mhm.
that part is key. I think that an MFA program can be the right path for so many people, but it's about finding the right time and making sure that you have enough of the skills and knowledge to bring to that advanced, rigorous study at this point. I'm curious, like, what else you think should appear in these letters?
Yeah. So I think about, my kids both just went through college applications in the last few years. And my mantra to them was always make it easy for them to say yes.
Mm.
So you want the people reading your application to say, yes, this person would be a great addition to our program. And I think there are two ways to think about that. One is, yes, we want to know that your skills are at the level that you have the ability to self-reflect. In the MFA,
Mhm.
there's a big proponent of the program that is about that self-reflection with every packet
Yep.
you're turning in a letter, reflecting on your learning and what you're hoping to learn next. And so that piece shows in that part of the application. And then the other piece is how are you going to add to the community? What
Mhm.
kind of community member are you going to be? If you're like a complete grouch who's mean to everyone all the time and that comes through in your application, like that's probably not going to be a great fit, right? Like you're still going to be
Mhm.
miserable and then maybe other people are going to be miserable too. So most people won't have that
Mhm.
problem. But um but really thinking about like not just what you want from the program, but what you're bringing to the program.
Yeah, and that like is such a good point because community is so much of what I got out of my MFA program. My two critique partners, a writing group that I meet with virtually on Saturday mornings. So much of this is about the people you meet, and some of it is networking, but a lot of it is that human connection where we grow in our storytelling together, and we also find like in this very isolated career a chance to be with people who get it and who care
Mhm.
as deeply as we do. And so I love what you just said about what will you bring, what will you add to this space.
Yeah, and none of it, like you said, you get to be authentic, right?
Mhm.
You can be an introvert and add to the community.
Yes, that
You
is
can
such a
have
good
other
point.
limitations on your energy and time and still be a contributing member of the community and grow with people in that place.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the critical writing sample.
Yeah, I think, oh man, so I remember writing my critical essay on Scythe by Neil Schusterman. It
Mm,
had been, I really love writing middle grade. It's what I wanted to pursue. It's what I've published so far. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stretch myself. I'm going to read a new, at the time, young adult book and explore. some aspect of craft through this essay. And I was really proud of that work, but it was dusting off some of those critical writing skills that I hadn't used in a minute. And for me, it was a transition to think about a book as an English major versus a writer. And you mentioned a little of this earlier, like really not thinking so much about the what is happening in the story, but how meaning is being created through syntax, through diction, through metaphor and imagery, and what the author is doing to make that happen on the page. There was a real change for me in my critical focus.
I I just looked up what I wrote about, which was,
I'm so
I was
curious.
I was in a reading group with my SBWI region where we met once a month to talk about a middle grade book. And so we had been doing that craft analysis together. And
Mm,
we read Lauren Wolf Hollow, which is one of my all-time favorite middle grade books. It's like, to me, it's a classic. Like, it will stand the
mm,
test of time. And I wrote about how she establishes place in that,
mm,
because there's only one place in the first 5 chapters that she describes a location for more than half a sentence. And
mhm.
then she has one location that's a full paragraph. And I
Wow.
was fascinated by that. And so you can actually find my critical thesis on the Kidlit Craft, or this critical essay on the Kidlit Craft website. And all of our craft articles are basically critical essays that are a little bit less formal.
What an
Um,
incredible resource. I love
yeah,
that.
so if you're looking to write a critical essay, that's a great place to look for how you might do it and how you approach it. There is one caveat, which we on Kidlit Craft really only publish um, kind of positive views of how craft is working. In a critical essay, when you're doing your MFA, you can also write about what craft isn't working. I
Mhm.
wrote a critical essay on the openings of chapter books. And I had 2 examples that I thought worked really well and 2 that I didn't. And I analyzed why. And that helped me know how I would want to write my own chapter books. Um, yeah. But I think what you said too, like the purpose, we're really looking at how is this craft technique used? How
Mhm.
is it, like, what is the effect? And why would you want to use this in your own writing?
Exactly. These are tools to help us better our own writing. I think sometimes when we think of critical writing, it might take us back to a different time in our life where it felt like critical writing was checking a box. And this is really a reflective practice to help you better understand how masters are achieving certain things in their work so that you can go out and do that same thing in your own style.
Hmm. Yeah. And it does use the same essay techniques that you
Hmm.
learn in first year writing at
Yep.
college. And so there's not rocket science behind it. The thinking might be more complex as you move forward. But really, if you have an introduction, a thesis statement, some paragraphs where you use evidence to prove your point, and then have a
Hmm.
conclusion, you're on the right track.
Exactly. We're not reinventing the wheel here.
Yeah. So let's talk about the creative writing sample. I ended up turning in a middle grade sample when I had primarily been writing picture books.
Wow.
And I felt like I really didn't know what I was doing, but I did have friends read it for me and critique it for me before I felt confident enough to turn it in. And I especially relied on my friend who already had been through an MFA program to say, like,
Mm.
yes, you're not going to embarrass yourself by sending this in. What do you think
Was
about
there
with that
like
creative writing sample? Oh, go ahead.
I'm curious, like, was there an aspect of that middle grade writing sample that you felt like really stood out?
I think it showed what I was going for. Like, I was really working on creating tension,
Mm.
and making it exciting to read. It was these, 2 boys who were in a forest, like, finding this magical deer, and and there were eerie things, and there might have been a baddie around the corner. And so I was really working on that tension. And
Mm.
so for me, that was the fun part of it. But I did have them like shoot a deer and like go through the process of dressing it. And
Mm.
it turns out I really didn't know how to dress a deer, and the assumptions that I made about it were very wrong. So luckily, one of my critique partners has a husband who is a hunter, and so she was able to like help me make it accurate. But I think
Amazing.
even without the accuracy, really, you know, the people reading it were looking for that tension, attention to detail on the
Mhm.
page, um, something that's exciting to read, something that's interesting, and not perfect, right? If you're writing something that's
Yes.
perfect, do you need an MFA? You might.
Exactly.
You might want one for many different reasons. You might want to start teaching. An MFA is a terminal degree, and so you can get a job teaching at a university without a PhD. Um, some people want it for their own pleasure, like it's a wonderful
Mhm.
experience. But the creative writing sample, again, like doesn't have to be perfect. I haven't gone back and looked at it, so I don't know how I would evaluate it now. What about you? How was your creative writing sample? Do you
I
remember?
also, yeah, I also submitted a middle grade fantasy, and I had been working on it for a very long time. And, there was so much I didn't know about story structure, about pacing, about character development. And I really relied on my intuition and what I enjoyed reading. And so a lot of that was on the page. And I think what what stood out, after talking to people afterwards, was really allowing for play to happen and for there to be silly moments of fun and lightness intermixed with some high stakes action. And the thing that I look for now, like when I'm working with my writing clients or when I'm setting something out to editors, in any sort of a creative writing sample, the first thing that I'm looking for and now trying to put out there is a strong voice. And that's like such a difficult thing to be able to describe because it's the culmination of so many different pieces. But when a voice is working, when it comes through as authentic, when the pace is just like, I can't stop reading this page. I have to go to the next thing. I need to know what happens after this. And so I'm really looking for a voice that grabs me. And I try to make sure that I'm never bored reading my own work. And so if something isn't working in the voice, it's a sign that I need to go back and rework a sentence or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Voice is tricky.
So tricky.
Yeah. I wanted to mention in all of these, like doing the basic proofreading, editing, having other people read it, making sure you get as many of the grammatical errors out as you can.
Mhm.
You do want to put your best foot forward. Um, know many creative writers that is not their strength, the grammar. Um, I I love it. So I super nerd out about it, but you don't have to be good at grammar to be a wonderful creative writer. But when
Mm.
you're applying to an MFA program, you do need to like fill those gaps. And when you're in the program as well, finding someone who can read your work for you and help you with that, and get better at that part of it. You don't have to be like me and have like grammar certificates and everything, but doing what you can to grow in that area will be great. But if you haven't, you can still apply. Just make sure that you're filling those
Exactly.
gaps of grammar, putting your best foot forward, giving them all the opportunity to say yes to you.
Mhm.
So let's talk about letters of recommendation. I just was recently asked to write one. And so I went back to the person and said, I need the date, the deadline that I need to have it back. And I want to see the application materials that you can choose what to send me that will help me know how you're presenting yourself. And then if you have a way, if you know something that I can speak to, that I'm going to be the one saying that in your application, tell me, because I might not say it.
Mhm.
And I want to present you well. So that's on the writing side of it. That's what I'm thinking about. What about you for either asking or for when you're writing them?
Yeah, I mean, as a former high school English teacher, I have written my fair share of letters of recommendation. And I think everything you just said is exactly right. That you want to give your recommender as much information as possible so that they are really pulling from an accurate pool of information about what to share about you and the work that you're doing. I think that sometimes too, when you're pursuing an MFA, it could be many, many years since you were in a course. And so thinking about who to ask is also really important. It doesn't have to be a college professor. It doesn't have to be someone who's directly connected to academia. It could be somebody who you've taken a class with at a different creative writing program that's not affiliated with a college or university. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And you could, like, if you've done a mentorship program, go to your mentor, ask them to write a letter of recommendation for you. Think outside the box because there's a lot of people who can speak to your skills, your abilities, your passion for writing for young people that will help someone decide whether or not admittance to an MFA is the right decision.
Yeah, I think I had taken my very first picture book writing class with Dashka Slater. And so I asked her. And then I think I had my friend who had done an MFA before write one because we had critiqued
Mm,
each other's work. We were in this group together where we were reading middle grade books together. And so I felt like she knew parts of me and my writing that would be relevant to people who are in admissions at an MFA program. And she knew what it took to do an MFA.
mhm.
And so for me, that was a big boost that she wouldn't say I was ready if she really didn't believe it, and she would probably know.
Yes.
So
So
that's the
smart.
route I took. Do you remember
Um,
who you asked?
I was a few, what was I, maybe 5 or 6 years out of undergrad at that point, and I remember asking former professors
Hmm.
from my English degree, but they were not focused specifically on creative writing. They had been more on the literature and education side of things, but they could speak to my writing abilities. I had thought of like very specific assignments that I had written for their classes that I knew would help them speak very specifically to the type of work that I could do.
Yeah. So there's not a super wrong answer. It really
Mm-mm.
helps to have people who've seen your writing and know you as a writer, whether that's academic
Mhm.
writing or creative writing. Yeah, and I, as a book coach, author coach, that I know my clients' writing really well, and so
Mhm.
it's a natural fit to be able to write for them if they're applying to MFA programs. Anything else about the application that we're forgetting?
Um,
I will say one thing from uh, my deep experience now of college applications is that each piece of the application um, is considered in the context of the whole.
mm,
So they're not going to look at the critical essay and say like F on that, never mind, right? Like it's you're showing yourself as a whole person, and that you don't need to overlap. So
mhm.
in your letter of application, it doesn't need to be the same as your artist statement. In your critical writing, you don't need to reference things about yourself that show up in your artist statement, right? So each one is showing a different facet of you.
You know, the only other thing I can think about the application process is like, if you're uncertain about a piece, it never hurts to ask a question. And I think sometimes we think like, well, if I have to ask a question about the application, does it look like I'm unprepared or I'm not ready for this? And I think perhaps it's the opposite. Like it shows that you care enough to go out of your way to make sure that you get it as right as possible. So be proactive in your acquisition of knowledge.
I like it. So let's turn to this class that you're teaching. It's with the University of San Francisco, and it's a certificate program. It's a 10-week course called Writing for Children. Oh, no, Writing for Young Readers. I lost it. Writing for Young Readers Bootcamp. MFA in Writing for Young Readers Bootcamp.
Yes,
What the
I'm
heck is
so
it?
excited.
Tell,
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
tell us.
It's the MFA in Writing for Young Readers Bootcamp. And this class came to me and uh, Martha Brokenbrough as we were talking about how to best build up students so that they can be successful in an MFA program. Because people come to an MFA from various points in their life with lots of different experiences, skill sets, and knowledge, it can feel intimidating to jump into the rigor of a program like this. And the goal of this class is multifaceted. One, it's to remove as many barriers as possible so that you can find success in an MFA program. Two, it's to try on the rigors of an MFA program before fully committing to it for 2 years. Test out some of these things for 10 weeks and see if you even like this type of academic study. And third, this is a great way to build some community. It's an opportunity to meet with like minded people who are pursuing the same things as you and really dig deep into writing and exploring stories for young people. So I'm really excited and hopeful for this class because I think it's going to give a lot of people the opportunity to hit the ground running in their very first semester of grad school instead of feeling like they're maybe playing catch up, learning certain terms, exploring, brushing off some new skills, and they can jump right in feeling confident about what they're doing.
So we should mention two things. One is that Martha Brokenborough is the program director of the USF Writing for Young Readers MFA program. And also that this is an online class, correct?
Yes. So we're going to meet virtually for 2.5 hours on Tuesdays at 4:30 Pacific time. And we're going to spend these 10 weeks exploring how to read like a writer. We're going to practice annotations and critical essay writing. We're going to practice workshops with students' creative pieces so that we can really build up all of these different components that make up the entirety of the MFA experience.
So how much, this is a nitty-gritty question, how much work can people expect to do outside of the 2.5 hour meeting?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's going to vary week to week, but I would say to expect between 10 and 12 hours of work, and it depends at the rate at which you work. There will be certain writing assignments, sometimes critical, sometimes creative. There will be a lot of reading that we do throughout, a lot of texts that are written for young readers, but some pieces that are craft focused or more analytical so that we can discuss those in our workshops, or you can have them when you're working on your critical essays. Um, it's going to vary because people read and write at different rates, but that's what I would anticipate.
So what are you personally most excited about in this class?
And for me, first and foremost, building community is always the thing that I love most. I love meeting people. I love finding joy in this creative process and sharing in stories together. Like it's what I love so much about the Kidlit community in general. And so to be able to meet more people and bring them in and share time with them is just like the best thing ever. Uh, Secondly, I'm really excited to get nerdy about books. I love talking about craft. I love talking about what makes stories work. I'm a huge like structure nerd. I love thinking about how we organize stories. So being able to dive deep for 2.5 hours every week is just like heaven on earth.
It's a treat for you.
It is, it is.
So just logistically, do students have to apply to the USF program after this? What's the post-class goal?
Yeah, so by the end of this class, you're either going to know for sure that the MFA is for you, or maybe you will have determined that that's not the path. As we were talking earlier, an MFA isn't right for every writer, and it's also not essential to publish a book. There's a lot of pathways to publishing, and we want to make sure that if you're going to commit yourself to a 2-year MFA program, that you really want to do it and that you're doing it for the right reasons. And so by the end of this class, you can apply for the USF program. You could take what you've learned and apply to other low res or residential MFA programs. We want you to find success, whatever that means for you, whatever that looks like for you, and do what is best for your personal creative writing journey.
How do you want people to feel when they come out of your class? That's always something I ask about my writing. Like, what do I want people to
Yeah.
feel in this scene? Or what do I want people to feel when they hit the end? What is that for you? What are you hoping for?
My hope is that people can find some of the things that I found in my MFA experience, which is a sense of belonging, that your weird matches my weird, and we get to do this awesome, wonderful thing together. I really want people to walk out of this class feeling more confident in who they are as artists and creatives and writers and storytellers. And I want people to walk away knowing that their story is worth sharing, that what they have to say is worth taking up space, and that they have now a community who is going to celebrate them no matter what.
That's beautiful. I love it. So thank you so much, Michael. I before we say goodbye, I want to know where people can find you and where they can register for your class.
Absolutely. And thank you, Anne Marie, for having me on the Kidlit Craft podcast. I love everything you and Aaron do. It's been such a joy working with you over the years. You can learn more about me at michaelleali.com. You can learn more about my books and things that I like to do. Uh, and you can register for the MFA and Young Readers Bootcamp on the USF website. If you go to the MFA and Young Readers program page, you'll be able to scroll down and see all the different certificate courses that we offer, including this boot camp class, and you can apply and register from there.
And I will also put links to this in the show notes so you can just go to the podcast and click. And also, both of us are author coaches. And if you're interested in finding out more about working with me or working with Michael one-on-one, you can email me at editor@kidlitcraft.com and I'll send you in the right direction. Well, Michael, it has been such a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Anne Marie. I love being here.